Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here. I got another Master Duel video for you. So it's time to come back to Punk. Well, we did Punk a little bit in the last deck profile with tier elements, but that was Punk being used as an engine. I wanted to play a deck, after playing with tier elements and Punk in them a little bit, I wanted to play a deck where Punk was more the focus. So we're back here with Kashtira Punk. We are definitely less Kashtira this time around. Actually, I think I have made another Punk profile where I took out, like, the Arise-Heart. I'm trying to remember when I did that, but at some point I ended up taking out, like, the Arise-Heart, the Theosis, like, one of our previous iterations of Kashtira Punk, we were very much, like, 50% Punk deck, 50% Kashtira deck, but I don't actually really like splitting the focus of the deck like that, because it kind of does come down to you have to commit to one combo line or the other, because both Arise-Heart and Theosis will commit you to only Exceed summoning, right, for the rest of the turn. So you either have to do one or the other, or do your whole Punk line and then your whole Kashtira line, which is not very likely that's going to happen. So as you can see, as far as Kashtira cards go, it's just going to be Fenrir's, Unicorns, Wraitsoth, and one copy of Birth. Basically, the role of Kashtira's here is not only just serving as generally really good disruption, both Fenrir and Unicorn, but also being level 7 non-tuner monsters. We get to use them with our Punk tuners in order to make the level 10 synchros, namely Baronne de Fleur. But of course, it's also not bad to just have them as part of your end board as well. That's why we are playing the one of Birth, right? The idea is that if you open with Unicorn, you can special the Unicorn, search out the Birth, then you can sync off the Unicorn with one of your level 3 Punk tuners to make the Baron, and then you get to use Birth to bring back Unicorn and still have the extra deck rip going into your opponent's turn. Otherwise, we are a pretty dedicated Punk deck, like I said. We are, in fact, doing the full Punk line, so we have, like, the Rising Carp and the Sharakusai. I actually did want to fit in a second Sharakusai. Second Sharakusai is one of those cards that's, like, constantly on the cusp of, like, teetering on the edge of making the deck or not, right? I do have 2 Rising Carps here in the extra deck. I like having 2 not only for enemy Kashtira Unicorns, but also does help in grind games, but the second Sharakusai is also very, very helpful in grind games, but I think there's barely not enough room for the second Sharakusai here. Cards that I actually was playing the second one in my first draft of this deck, but a couple of cards that managed to eke out that spot were the Ghost Ogre and Star Rabbit. I do like having the option to grab this off of the Jam Dragon Drive. I think it is really strong, because although a lot of the time you will grab the Adamancipator and just special her off the field spell to get the search and the draw, as well as the extra body, at the same time, I think having the option to go into the Ghost Ogre, if you don't need to do that, is still very, very good. Ghost Ogre might seem like a kind of like situational point of disruption. You might read it and be like, oh, this doesn't negate, why would this be good? Still very good for hitting continuous spell and trap cards, field spells, any monster that needs to be on the field to resolve. You'll actually see a couple of instances in games coming up where we're able to use it to great effect against monsters that need to stay on the field to fully resolve their effects. But oh, and then the other slot that I was using the second Sharakusai, but I ultimately decided to put in a second copy because I was only playing 1, but I decided to play 2 Triple Tactics talent. I just like the card overall, and if I have a deck like this where I want a little bit of interaction for the opponent's turn, and I have a couple of slots open. I really like the triple tech because it's not only, well, it doesn't interact on the opponent's turn, but it interacts when the opponent does things, is kind of more what I meant. But it's good going first or second. Going first, being able to hand rip your opponent, get information of what they're on, both specifically as in what is in their hand and generally as in their deck, is very helpful. And then, of course, taking control of things / drawing 2, also very good. Typically, those 2 more so going second. But yeah, I think for a lot of it, this is a pretty typical Punk deck. And it performed very well. We're going to see a lot of really good games where you'll see, like, just how much advantage in particular this deck can gain. But yeah, I don't think I have anything more to say about the list, so let's go ahead and break it down card by card and then look at those games. We are on 3 Maxx, 1 Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit, 3 Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring,
1 Ukiyoe Sharakusai, 1 P.U.N.K Wa Gon, 1 Joruri Adamancipator, 3 Noh-P.U.N.K Amin, 2 Noh-P.U.N.K Deer Note, 2 Kashtira Fenrir, 3 Kashtira Unicorn, 3 Noh-P.U.N.K Foxy Tune, 2 Noh-P.U.N.K Ogre Dance, 1 Nibiru the Primal Being, 2 Triple Tactics Talent, 1 P.U.N.K Jam Extreme Session, 1 Pressured Planet Wraitsoth, 1 Kashtira Birth, 2 Emergency Teleport, 2 Call by the Grave, 1 Crossout Designator, 3 Infinite Impermanences, and then 1 Joruri P.U.N.K Nashiwari Surprise. So there is our main deck. For the extra, we are on 2 Ukiyoe P.U.N.K Rising Carp, 1 Adamancipator Risen Dragite, 1 P.U.N.K Jam Dragon Drive, 1 Baronne de Fleur, 1 Swordsoul Supreme Sovereign Chengying, 2 Ukiyoe P.U.N.K Amazing Dragon, 1 Psychic End Punisher, 1 number 49 Fortune Tune, 1 Downerd Magician, 1 number 11 Big Eye, 1 Kashtira Arise-Heart, 1 Divine Arsenal, Zeus Sky Thunder, and then finally 1 Asa the Earth Charmer Immovable. So there is our list. Let's go see some gameplay now. Alright, our first opponent is on Mathmech. Good old Mathmech. They are on the Spirit package with also the coder package, like microcoder, code talker, side conflict, all that fun stuff. We're going to be taking the first turn here. This hand is phenomenal. This is like custom hand right here. We got the Fenrir and we got the E-Telly. The only thing I would have changed if I was actually crafting a custom hand here is I would have done Unicorn instead of Fenrir and also any of the P.U.N.K tuners instead of Imperm. Probably Adamancipator so I could search the Ghost Ogre later, but very, very close to an actual literal custom going first hand. But as you can see, we are doing some pretty typical P.U.N.K stuff. I do actually have a P.U.N.K combo guide that I'm going to link in the description below. If I haven't done that, feel free to yell at me in the comments until I do. And I'll make sure to get that done. Because I won't go into too much detail here about, you know, what steps you need to do everything in. But just know that this is a pretty typical P.U.N.K line with the extra Kashtira monster. Really the extra level 7 body thrown in. Because even before Kashtira came out, P.U.N.K would very often play like Instant Neospace or Ascendant Thunder. These random level 7 bodies that can special summon themselves, and then you can use that to sync for level 10. But as you can see here, we're going to use the Jam Dragon Drive to go for the Adamancipator special, get a search and a draw, and like, this is, like, here's the disgusting thing here, right? Well, besides the fact that we're about to max C. Like, I know that Yu-Gi-Oh! Isn't a game where card advantage doesn't matter as much as it did in the past, or as it does in other card games. Some of you watching might not even know the concept. For those who don't, when I say advantage or card advantage, I'm referring to between your hand and field having more cards than your opponent has between their hand and field. And the field spell for P.U.N.K offers so much of that advantage with the extra draws. Like, if you count the total number of resources we have here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 total cards against our opponent's 6. That is a +5 advantage on them off of just our first turn. And again, nowadays advantage does not mean nearly as much, but I still think that's wild. So I'm going to max C during my opponent's draw phase. They're going to begin with Aratama and then Sakitama, which does play very well into the max C, but as soon as these hit the field, I'm just going to go for my my Amazing Dragon to bounce both of them back. I'm basically forcing my opponent to have either Circular or a card that searches it, because now they've used their normal summon. And I guess to be fair, I don't know for sure they are on Mathmech. The spirits usually mean Mathmech, but they could still mean Exorcist or another rank 4 deck. Triple Attack is going to try to activate here, but thankfully we have the Crossout Designator, so we do not have to use our Baron on the Triple Attack here. But if I didn't have Crossout Designator set, absolutely would have used the Baron on the Triple Attack there. Our opponent does have Addition plus Subtraction. Looks like that's going to be how they're going to end up going for the Alum version here. Nibiru is a pretty nice pickup, but I'm not ultimately going to need it. I'm just going to use the Imperm on the Alum here. So no search for my opponent. They've still committed their normal summon. They do end up having the Circular in hand, but now they only have 3 cards left in hand, and now 2 of them are spirit monsters they can't normal summon. So I will use the Baron here to stop the Circular, because I know I can also use my Call By to stop the Sigma, and I doubt my opponent,
I doubt they're going to have another Cyberse extender. They would have to be playing Gachiri because they've already used both addition, subtraction, and sigma, right? So they would have to have exactly Gachiri at Ignister. Parallel Exceed as their last card doesn't do it because Adamancipator Version can't go into any of the Link ones because they all require level 4 or lower Cyberse monsters. Or if you're playing Almirage, the monster has to be normal summoned. I guess Equation would have got them into some amount of plays, but we obviously still have, like, far more than... I don't think I even used the Punk Trap, the Nashiwari Surprise. Pretty sure I still had that face down, too. So, even if our opponent had managed to have one more extender, yeah, they still would just have not been able to push through all of the stuff we had. And I think a lot of that does come down to, again, all that advantage we gained on our first turn. You can see here why exactly that does matter as much as it does. Because the more advantage you have, the more cards you have, the more options you have over your opponent. So that is the first duel, and that is an ideal Cash Punk game, if I do say so myself. But let's go ahead and see some of these other duels here. Okay, so this opponent is going to be on a hero deck. We had a hero opponent in the last video, too. Been facing a lot of hero lately. Not that I will complain. Hero is historically one of my favorite decks, but we're going to be taking the second move here. Thankfully, we have a great going second hand with the Maxx and the Ash Blossom. It is a little awkward to only have Wa Gon and Adamancipator as far as actual plays here go, but looks like the opponent has Denier set to pass. I will say, I don't know the other two cards in my opponent's hand, but there's an at least decent chance, based on what these two set cards are, that the Maxi might not have even been what stopped my opponent from making plays here. Like, I think their hand might have actually just been mediocre, but... The E-Telly is a godsend of a top deck, but I am going to start with the Wa Gon first. Opponent is going to chain Mask Change. Definitely know they're going into the Dark Law here with the Denier. Looks like they want to snipe a card from my hand. And they will get to do so by Banish, too, here. I'm going to chain the E-Telly, because here's what I'm thinking right now, right? With the Dark Law banishing everything actually does make things pretty awkward for me. Mostly because it means I'm not able to actually activate, like, Foxy Tune, for example. And, you know, we do also still want a lot of our stuff to still be hitting the graveyard. But the thing about Dark Law's banish effect is that it's one-sided. It's only... where is it? Any card sent to the opponent's graveyard is banished instead, right? So, if I take control of the Dark Law with the triple attack, then I'm going to have an easy ride through the rest of this game. I get to just take it. I don't have to worry about it. And also, then I kind of put my opponent on the flame a little bit because, you know, the hero deck doesn't want their stuff banished either. But more than that, I'm probably just going to, like, OTK them this turn. But if the Dark Law does end up managing to snipe the triple attack, I'm actually still fine. I still have plays here. I can use E-Telly for Amin and Amin for a search, and then my plan would be basically to go into the number 49 Fortune Tune. Fortune Tune is basically just here to be a Zeus pilot. Because I can detach a material, it won't be destroyed by battle. Then I get to go into Downerd Zeus. Zeus wipes out the board, including the Dark Law. Then I'm free to use stuff like Foxy Tune. So, but we definitely wanted to chain the E-Telly effect here, because if E-Telly gets hand ripped here, then it kind of doesn't matter either way. Like, I'm going to have not really many plays, right? So, oops, wanted to play that. So like I said, E-Telly for Amin, and Dark Law ends up ripping the Adamancipator, which is actually just the best one for me, for them to hit there. Like, I think if I had to pick for my opponent, I would have picked for them to hit the Adamancipator. So yeah, as soon as I play the field spell, my opponent is just going to concede. They didn't want to try to play it out. Well, their connection failed, but this was definitely, you know, them closing the app. But yeah, I think that Dark Claw decision point mattered a lot more than it might have seemed. Not only chaining the E-Telly there actually super mattered, but also having a plan for if the triple attack got ripped or if it didn't get ripped. Just making sure we have our bases covered, right? So there is that duel. Let's go ahead and go straight into the next one here. Alright, we have yet another Mathmech opponent here. I actually didn't look at their list too closely, but I'm pretty sure this opponent is on the Defensor package, because I think they summon it, if I remember correctly. We'll see. But don't worry, we're just the luckiest Yu-Gi-Oh player ever, so we opened a really, really good going second hand. They are going to have the Ash Blossom for the Maxx, so, you know, don't worry, this is actually going to be a real game of Yu-Gi-Oh! But, yeah, they opened Circular. Okay, wow. So yeah, Circular sending the Sigma F to bring itself back, Circular F to, of course, add the Super Factorial. Definitely wanting to use my Imperm on the Alambertian here. I need to keep them off of diameter, so that way that Super Factorial is not that great. So, Imperm is in fact going to come down here. And if my opponent wants to stop here, I'm fine with not even using the Nib, but here it is. Yeah, they do summon Defensor, so yeah. Gonna follow up with the normal summon to Defensor here, going for a Link Decoder. I think the order they went for things in here was a little bit odd, but maybe they just didn't want to use the Link Rebo just yet, but I mean, I guess the order they did it in actually does still work. They get to go for the Splash Mage, Firewall Guardian bringing itself back. Oh, but their Link arrows end up being a little bit awkward, I think, here, if I remember correctly, because now they're going for Transcode. Transcode F to bring back the Splash Mage. Oh, no, they're just going for Heat Soul? Yes, Heat Soul. Here we go. Which, I don't know. I mean, I think my opponent could have Singularity'd here if they'd played that instead of Heat Soul. I do still think that's better than Heat Soul, but there is at least still a merit. Like, I'm not going to say Heat Soul. I've called Heat Soul completely obsolete in the past. I don't know that that's necessarily true, but I do think Singularity is better still. So yeah, at the very end here, I'll throw down the Nib. Just get rid of the Terahertz and the Heat Soul. I wanted to see if they were going for Singularity or not. If I'd known they were going for Heat Soul, then I definitely would have just used the Nib before the Heat Soul was going to come out, because I ultimately did allow my opponent to have an extra draw as a result of that, but I think it's fine. I think it's fine to hedge like that just to make sure that you're, you know. Jeez, I totally lost track of that thought mid-sentence. Oh my god, that was bad. Anyway, I'm going to use Jam Dragon Drive to bring back the Xamine. Xamine will buff the Jam Dragon Drive. Oh, no, sorry. Deernut's bringing back Xamine. Jam Dragon Drive is adding Ghost Ogre? Yeah, Ghost Ogre here. So this is going to be a little bit awkward because I don't think I'm actually able to finish out the duel on this turn. Yeah, I'm definitely not. So, at the same time, I don't want to battle with the Pep. I'd rather have it stay unaffected. I'll use the effect main phase 2 to get myself lower in life points. To, again, try to make sure it stays unaffected. Unfortunately, I had an Imperm. Well, I guess kind of fortunately and unfortunately. Like, it's nice to get the Imperm out of there, but I kind of wanted to hit the Super Factorial. Although, to be fair, they would have just chained it anyway, so. Although, I don't think my opponent actually has... Okay. This is also why I really like having the second Alambertian. I don't think my opponent has one. Because I think he would just flip it up and get a second. Because here's the thing, right? I don't like only having the one Alambertian because it's so easy for your Super Factorial targets to get attacked while they're in the graveyard. Or for your combo line to get attacked in a way where you only have... Oh wow, no, they only have one Mathmech monster in the yard, never mind. I thought Sigma was in the yard too, but I guess it's banished. Yeah, it is banished, look at that. Okay, JK, never mind. Here is where the Ghost Ogre is going to really come in handy. See, the thing about G-Golem Crystal Heart is that it needs to put the monster in a zone that specifically it's pointing to. But if G-Golem is no longer on the field, it's not pointing to any zones, and therefore the opponent is not able to put down a monster. And like here, for example, they can summon the Update Jammer if they want to, but they're like out of stuff. Their extra deck is only 5 more cards, right? And we know one of them is Access Code for sure. But the other 4 are not going to be able to get them enough bodies because G-Golem Crystal Heart is like the deck's big follow-up Link play, right? Because you do use Transcode and Splash Mage both on the turn 1, you need to have the G-Golem as a turn 2 follow-up. But if that gets stopped, then it's really hard for you to make plays. That's why a lot of Mathmech decks will actually play a second Splash Mage, which is something I have considered in the past for pretty much situations like this. But yeah, again here, my opponent can make the Update Jammer if they want to, but they don't have anything else left to go for. And yeah, at this point they just kind of concede as a result. Because here's the thing too, The multiplication can double the update jammer's attack point up to 4,000, but as soon as they move to battle phase, I get to trigger Pep's effect to boost its attack by, I think, 1,200, 1,400, something like that there. And no, it's 1,200 because I was at 58, they were at 7k. And my Pep was at 3,700, so that obviously pushes my Pep to above 4k, I think 5,200, I think, there. And then, yeah, from there, it's just not possible for them, I think, to win the duel at all anymore. So, all right, we do have one last game to check out. Let's go straight into it. And our final game here is going to be up against Exosister. Exosister, like I've alluded to in the past, and even for a moment in this video, did get a nice boost in power recently from Sakitama coming out. The Spirit Engine helps any deck that wants to make rank 4s, and of course Exo very much wants to make rank 4s. So here we have just yet another very, very good opening hand. We also have an opponent imperming the Fenrir. I've said this many, many times, and I will continue to say this. Do not ever Ash Blossom or Imperm Fenrir for pretty much any reason ever. It's almost universally one of the worst cards in any deck it's in to hit with Disruption. Even Kashtira decks. There are some situations where if I knew for sure my opponent was on Cash, then maybe I would think about negating the Fenrir, but even your opponent playing like the field spell Wraitsoth isn't enough of a guarantee, honestly, because Punk, here we play Wraitsoth, Tearlaments, like we showed yesterday we play Wraitsoth, so... Because here's the thing, right? Even if you are up against Kashtira, you can still use Ash Blossom on Theosis or Shangri-Ira. You can Imperm the Ira, the Arise-Heart, the Unicorn, the regular Rise-Heart. There are situations where that's good to hit. Like, you'll always have a better target than Fenrir. It doesn't matter what deck the Fenrir is in. You will always have a better Ash or Imperm target than the Fenrir. But yeah, I'm pretty much doing almost the exact same thing here. Just a little bit less advantage, but that's fine. Oh, gosh, we're only ending on a total of, what, 5, 6, 8 cards instead of 11. Oh, goodness. And yeah, as you can see here, the opponent's gonna concede very quickly. But it went by a little bit quickly, but I want to talk about the play that I made here, actually, the way I disrupted them. So when my opponent normal summoned the Exosister Stella, to me, that was an indication that Nashiwari Surprise was the best disruption to begin with, because Stella has an effect to summon more Exos from hand, but only at spell speed 1. I know there are other Exosister monsters that can summon themselves from hand, but I also know that's at spell speed 1. So basically here, I kind of forced my opponent, especially because they've already used their normal summon, by destroying the Stella here after the summon has resolved. I kind of am telling my opponent, hey, you gotta have Martha. If you don't have Martha, you don't have plays. And even then, I still have the Baron Omni negate, so they kind of have to have Martha and a way to stop my Baron, which clearly they just did not have at all here. So that is going to go ahead and do it for these games. Hope you all enjoyed this video. Let's now move to our outro. Alright everybody, that's going to do it for this video. Thank you for watching it all the way to the very end. That means a whole lot to me, and it's also a fantastic way to support the channel. And if you're interested in supporting the channel in other ways besides YouTube, there are plenty of ways to do that. If you check out the description below, you'll find a bunch of links down there. One of them goes to my Patreon. You're actually seeing the names of everyone subscribed to the Patreon on the screen right now. So if you're interested in getting your name in the credits here at the end, if you want to see more daily Master Duel content, or if you're interested in one-on-one private coaching sessions, I offer all of that on Patreon. I also stream live on Twitch. Feel free to go ahead and click that link and follow and or subscribe there. I also have the Discord community, if you want to follow that link, where hundreds of duelists have already signed up. Free to join, and you can just come hang out, talk about the game, and chill in general. Final link that's going to be in the description is my Twitter. You can follow that if you want some more notifications of what's happening with the channel. So, all in all, thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you have a fantastic day.